This is Real Talk with Rosanna Lucia and Brianna Black. Welcome to Real Talk. Today's episode is about aliens. I'm Rosie, and today I have Tyson Davis with us. So our first segment's going to be a bit of history on aliens, and then we'll have a discussion. So, according to History.com, in popular culture, the term UFO, or unidentified flying object, refers to a suspected alien spacecraft, although its definition encompasses any unexplained aerial phenomena. UFO sightings have been reported through recorded history in various parts of the world, raising questions about life on other planets and whether extraterrestrials have visited Earth. They've become a major subject of interest and the inspiration behind numerous films and books following the development of rocketry after World War II. The first known UFO sighting occurred in 1947 when businessman Kenneth Arnold claimed to see a group of 9 high-speed objects near Mount Rainier in Washington while flying his small plane. Arnold estimated the speed of the crescent-shaped objects as several thousand miles per hour and said they moved like saucers skipping on water. In the newspaper report that follows, it was mistakenly stated that the objects were saucer-shaped, hence the term flying saucer. We've heard of ancient aliens and the pyramids, Area 51, Project Blue Book, and the many sightings that have been reported, yet nothing's really been confirmed. So today I have Professor Tyson Davis from the Communications and Media Department, who happens to be an alien enthusiast, joining us to discuss the very likely possibility that we are not alone in the universe. So, what do you think?
Well, what do I think? You brought up the Kenneth Arnold. So I think there were pictures that he had with that.
In 1947?
I'm not sure about that. I know that, I just think there were. I feel like he had some kind of photographic evidence. And I think that might be the first photographed. I know that he coined the term, or the term came out of that sighting. And saucer came from, I've read the history of that before. I can't exactly remember where flying saucer came from. It might have been from Arnold. So what do I think about? I think it goes back much further than that.
Oh, yeah.
I think that if I'm remembering this correctly, that the first documented, meaning documented in a written way, was maybe in the 1600s in Germany. There was some type of a fight in the sky between.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm
Yeah,
talking
I know
about?
what you're talking about.
There was like a block print
Yeah.
that was produced out of what all the people saw. And I think that it wasn't that long afterwards, somewhere else near that town in Germany, saw another sky battle. I can't quite remember what they called it.
I think it goes even further back than that, too, because there's, like, drawings in caves.
Oh, yes. Pictographs and
hieroglyphs, yeah.
That you see different.
And even just the fact that, like, there were pyramids all over the earth, and these people had no way of communicating that to each other. Like, why did they all choose
We
to do
think
that?
they didn't. We just don't. I think
Really
there's
not,
so much
yeah.
we don't know. And you bring up
And it's not
pyramids.
recorded.
I think we were circumnavigating the earth at various points in time. I think the Egyptians were. I think you had a time period when the Vikings were, or the Nordic people were at one point, the Polynesians. Oh my goodness, I mean, what they did was unbelievable, the way that they would use the skies as to navigate in canoes, essentially in huge what do you call it, like
flocks,
convoys or flocks of canoes. But so I guess the general question was, what do I think?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the reason why I agreed to do this is because you used the term alien, and I really like that term. I don't like the term extraterrestrial because I don't personally think that we're being visited by extraterrestrials. I just don't.
Okay.
I don't believe that something is coming here physically from another planet, because I don't believe that's physically possible under our laws of physics. Um, I think that to act and function outside of our laws of physics might be possible, but that would have to mean that whatever it is not physical like us.
Yeah.
They might be physical in a different
like they
way.
could project themselves here.
And that
Right,
could
yeah.
well, that could be it. And I know that I brought that up the other day, and that's just me speculating. I don't really think that is happening. However, I do think that it's possible that some things we're seeing might be projections from somewhere. I just think we're not looking in the right place.
Yeah.
I think we should be looking around us, and we should be looking terrestrially for answers before we start.
Right.
Not me and you. We can sit
No,
around and
yeah.
hypothesize
Scientists,
all day long.
They can do the searching, and
I just think
there's so much that we don't know about
Mhm.
space and our own planet. 90% of the Earth's waters are not explored. We don't know what's down there. How are we going to find what's up there?
Well, agree. We're thinking what, and we're also, let's just say it is something that can function outside of our laws of physics. We're not ever going to be able to explain that, and
Right.
there is no physical explanation that we can ever conceptualize as physical beings in the physical form that we're in. There is no way, and that goes to our, the people who think that our government knows everything. I don't think they do.
I don't think so either. And with that being said, I also think, like you said, we are made of a very specific set of elements. We function on carbon and oxygen and water, and who's to say those elements even exist where aliens come from? They have a completely different quote-unquote biology that they, so how could they even come here unless they were insanely advanced, which I believe is possible, but we also have to consider the aliens that are just amoebas and just other forms of life that are out there.
So for that, I do believe that there are some life forms on other planets. I would never discount that. I actually think
they did find something on Mars too.
Well, if all that I know of that they found from Mars was a meteorite that landed on Earth but came from Mars and had some type of single cell organism or something in it like that. But I think that it's possible that if we dug into the Mars soil, that we would find something underground that's still living.
We also have to consider that we are one galaxy that's huge out of who knows how many. So, and it's a universe, a multiverse. We have no idea. So we could even be our own aliens if you think about it.
There are a lot of different possibilities that go along with definitely what could be happening. But so when I first started working here, I taught public speaking for a number of years, and the way that we gauge the credibility of a public speaker is we look for three different things that build credibility, and that is statistics, evidence, and testimony. And I think that the first thing that for people to really take this seriously, that they have to get past, that people have a really difficult time with, is simply believing that people are seeing what they're saying they're seeing.
Yeah.
So the people who are speaking about this, speaking out about this, I now need to judge them based off of
their credibility.
And that's statistics, evidence, and testimony. Well, I look at it like this: statistically, how possible is it that they're all lying or they're all hallucinating?
Or that they just saw something that they couldn't explain.
It statistically doesn't make sense. Yeah. And then you've got testimony directly from them, which is admissible in a court. Testimony is admissible in a court. And then you have the evidence, photographic evidence, mostly some audio evidence, video evidence, but it's all there for not a validation, but a legitimization of what people are experiencing. Mm-hmm. So I can at least say that I have made it past that I do find at least some of the people credible, and I do believe them. Mm-hmm. I do. And so I do believe they're seeing something. What it is they're seeing, we're all trying to wrap our brains around. And I wonder if we're ever really going to be able, like I said before, to understand it. I think the only way we're going to be able to understand it is if it is terrestrial in nature, mm-hmm. which it absolutely could be. Why this is veering off into outer space stuff that we'd never be able to actually figure out is what I question the most.
Right. Well, I think that the world is really afraid of like intruders or always like on the defense. Mm-hmm. So I think that we think we know what's on our own soil, but we're more afraid of outside like interference.
I just think anything's possible right here. Yeah. Why does it need to come from there? What I said before, I do believe that there are living organisms on other planets. I do. I just don't believe they're coming here.
So what about like your experience with media and like obsession with aliens and alien culture and Roswell becoming like this whole site for just alien I don't even know what to call it. Like, it's just like a Disney World for aliens.
I am really, really interested not in aliens as much, although, like I said, I do like that term, because alien can be right here. It doesn't have to be extraterrestrial to be alien to us and to look like that. But what I'm most interested in is and as a person who is a lecturer in this area, it is my job to consume media. It is my job to stay relevant in what is being published in media. And it's as clear as a bell that there is more programming on now than has ever been. And we are not about this subject, and we are not talking about shows like The Twilight Zone or The Jetsons. Mm-hmm. We are talking about shows that are on the History Channel, the Science Channel, the Travel Channel. And they are shows that legitimize this subject matter. They don't make fun of it. I'm not saying that, they're certainly working to disclose toward that or toward validation. It almost comes out what?
It comes off as scholarly. Like you think that you're watching.
Well, it's theoretical based. Yeah. It's theory based. So it would and that might be one of the reasons why I'm so attracted to it, because it's theory after theory after theory. Mm-hmm. But now that we're past the idea that this is just some made up stuff, which it's not, you have the U.S. government admitting that they've seen it and producing evidence. It feels like, I don't know, it feels like that someone or some people feel like they know something, and that is why they are putting this programming content out to the world. Mm-hmm. So for me, there are reasons behind large amounts of television programming content. There are purposes behind publishing it, and I am now curious as to why there's so much out there. What is their end game with this? What are they trying to convince us of? Or are they trying to convince us? Or are they simply just very skilled at getting an audience, and they know what will get an audience? I don't see it that way. I don't, because
I
they're.
think it's like half and half. It depends.
I
on
do
the
too.
program.
Yes, I think an audience and those numbers have to be. No, well, look at what's going on with some cable news stations right now. They don't have to have an audience to keep running, but that, as a general rule, has to happen. I agree with you. It's about half and half. There's also an ulterior motive.
Absolutely.
And there were Norman Lear in the 1970s had ulterior motives for putting, and they were wonderful ulterior motives for putting shows like The Jeffersons and Archie Bunker and All in the Family and Good Times, and all those shows in the 70s were meant to normalize something that should have already been normal, and it worked. It was brilliant, and what he did was, I think, incredible for society, that he mirrored or projected or predicted what was going to happen and got us used to it. Now I see the same thing happening with this content. They're two completely different things. One has to do with social issues, the other has to do with science issues, and I think I'm most interested in what is it that they think they know.
Yeah. I mean, every show is different too. They're all theories, obviously, but you see some of that being brought into like content, like the show Roswell, or there aren't a lot of like quote unquote alien shows for like narratives. It's all like History Channel, like you said. But I think the like most notable one is Roswell, or
which is
the movies,
considered
like
the beginning.
Aliens, and it's either like really scary aliens or like they're hiding amongst us. They're one of us.
Oh, yeah. I have a question about the aliens. So humans have not existed since the beginning of Earth. So do you think that like whatever did exist, dinosaurs or like amoebas, whatever bacteria and stuff existed before humans came around, could humans be considered as aliens to those beings, in a sense of like they were here first, and even though technically we're of the earth, came from the earth, like could that be a concept of aliens, since we're not talking about aliens coming to us and like being on earth, could that be the case?
I think that we're made of the same things, so
we are, and that is, but although I find it bizarre, it's like if you look around on Earth, if you look around on Earth, one of these things is not like the other.
Yeah.
Okay, we're the only thing on Earth that's really different from everything else, and why is that the case? I find that strange, evolutionary. Like, why aren't whales, and I don't mean this funny, but why aren't whales building houses? Why did everything else not progress and evolve like
to our extent?
Only us? But what you were saying, I think they're called, now I'm not a scientist, I think they're called eukaryotic cells, or
prokaryotic.
That is in everything. Us, trees, every living thing on Earth comes from, it's called the fateful encounter hypothesis. It comes out of that one encounter when those two single cell organisms bonded, did not separate, and reproduced from them, and everything comes out of that, and we have never in science seen it happen.
It's almost like luck, like that happened.
That's why a lot of people, and this goes to the religious and the non-religious, why there are a lot of people who do not believe that there are beings on other planets, because it's the fateful encounter hypothesis.
Right.
It happens so seldom that we have never seen that happen in nature ever. And it all had to have happened from that one encounter that every living thing we all came from. So how difficult it is to happen here must indicate how difficult it is to happen somewhere else, especially if it's random.
I disagree because of the circumstances in which we were given. So, just like I said, we may have completely different elements or just, biology than a different planet, or, they could have completely different laws of physics or rules that they go by. Like, they could be holograms for all we know. Like, you know what I mean?
So it could be, I agree with that. And if they are coming from other planets and they are functioning under different laws of physics, that would make this what people are seeing. It would make some sense as to why there isn't really interaction with them and us, because they can't operate in this, they look.
System. Yeah.
I have one question. Do you think that the supernatural and the thought of aliens could overlap? So, like, I know you mentioned religion. So, and like in the Bible, like, people can refer to it as aliens, but in the Bible, people can refer to it as angels, but people who don't necessarily believe in that text could refer to it as aliens, where they could be talking about the same thing. Because even in the Bible, like, there's nothing that actually negates the fact that aliens could exist, and purposely leaves out a whole bunch of stuff. And, the God of the Bible is the God of creation. So it makes more sense for aliens to exist than for them not to exist.
Well, that comes back to a theory on, like, maybe our God was an alien that, put us here, and this is some sort of experiment. I think that we're a simulation, but that doesn't mean that we're like a computer simulation. It could be an experiment that we were brought here for them, or we're an extension of them, or we were saved because their planet got destroyed. Like, there's so many possibilities that we don't know. And as far as the Bible, I'm not really religious, so I'm not sure what the text.
Well, the Bible's interesting. I do believe that we're talking tomatoes and tomatoes here. I think you're right. I think that, one group of people calls what's being seen one thing, and another group of people calls it something else. I think that
A bird, a plane, a
biblical Bibles look like aliens. Like, there's different.
What?
Oh yeah, you should.
Well,
I'm gonna add it as B-roll.
Aliens, they would have thought it is something else. But I do think that there's something to be said that it drifts it more back over to the biblical side or the spiritual side. That if they're not physical like us, then what is that? That to me isn't an extraterrestrial. That to me is what is called a spiritual being. And define that any way you want to with a physicality, but it seems more spiritual, para something, than it does actual physical. But you were saying something before. There's some things in the Bible that I think are really interesting and very confusing in Genesis. One of the things is and I'm pulling from the King James Version because I think that that's the foundation. It's where all other additions or translations
he took it and
come
rewrote
off.
it, and it was
Right.
like, this is the one.
So early in Genesis, God is pluralized. And when and I'm paraphrasing here, and I'm not usually paraphrasing with the Bible, but I do know that in KJV, King James Version, it talks about creating Adam and Eve. And God's is pluralized as they are saying the plural. We want to create them, and our becomes singular and says, no, they will be created in my image. And then when you get to Noah, no, I'm sorry. When Adam and Eve are created, God tells Adam and Eve to go forth and replenish the earth. And we know what replenish means there, because when Noah lands in Genesis on the mountain, God tells him to go forth and replenish the earth. So you can apply what was told to Noah as meaning the exact same thing with Adam and Eve. That something was here before you. Nobody needs to worry about it. Is the
I think it was Neanderthals. I think God created Homo sapiens, and then I think angels have the ability to create, and I think angels are under God, and they have free will. And then
well, in the days of Noah, the sons of gods, or whatever they were called in Genesis,
Nephilim?
Procreated. Yes, Nephilim is.
Those are giants. Nephilim are giants, and they're angels that
and
slept
don't
with
they think Goliath came from Nephilim?
I need to do some reading.
It's interesting to, but yeah, we're almost running out of time, so we do need to wrap up.
We could do another one on Nephilim. I'll come back for
Giants
Nephilim.
is a good, interesting one.
Rosie reads the Bible.
But giants are interesting because they're in almost every single culture. Like in almost every single sacred text, there is some historic, telling of a giant.
Like Goliath.
So, yeah.
And also floods are.
Like
200 cultures around the earth document a flood. So
yeah.
Rosie reads the Bible. We could totally do. I would do another podcast with y'all.
Okay, that's all right. That's
I've never done a podcast before.
Well,
and this
I'm so glad that
is,
we had
this is really interesting.
You heard it here, folks. There are tons and tons of possibilities. Make sure you get to know your neighbor, because they might be an alien. So, see you next week. That was Rosie and Tyson Davis. Bye.
Bye-bye.